Why is there so much gold here? This is the North Saskatchewan River. Most of Alberta is covered in a fine layer of gold dust everywhere. After the last ice skates, it all got ground up in the glaciers and got dumped in a nice little even layer all of Alberta. So if you go along the rivers and it's where it's eroded down to the gravel beds after that event of the glaciers, it dropped the rocks, and of course it all accumulated in different places. And you get into those gravels, it's pretty consistent. You can count on getting about about a half a gram to 3/4 of a gram for every yard that you move. So it's very consistent. The pit behind me, we're into a little bench cut here where we're right into the right layer. The test hole up top that we ran earlier in the spring, and we liked it in there. And of course, as the river dropped, we're able to work further down the bench here. We're in the same layer of gravel, just much easier to get to. Yeah, and of course, we're on the inside bend of a river here, so as it comes down the river, it settles onto this gravel bar, and that's why there's so much gold here. There's a little spot over here I'll show you in a second. Well, there were some nice rocks. We worked around it yesterday, really only moved about, I would say 3.5, 4 buckets of dirt, but we pulled a 1/4 gram of gold just out of that one little spot. I'll show that to you in a second. Anyway, let's take a look at the gravels and you'll see what I mean. So here's the test hole we dug in the spring. Went down. I mean, it filled in a little bit as the water went up. The water was very high in the bank. It came all the way over the bank. And of course, here's our run down to the river. We got in there in the spring and we dug down. And we found, consistent gold there, the right layer we were looking for. So we decided to come back and give it another shot. Here's our hole. We're working this bench. This is, as you can see from looking onward, this is the same layer of gravels that we were test bedding in the spring. And yeah, we're pretty happy. Pretty easy to dig there. So here we're in the North Saskatchewan, all the way along the river, there's basically 3 layers of gravel. There's one that sits up above me here, which is not terribly interesting. There's this layer right here, and then you go down another 1.5 feet, there's another layer. This layer here is probably the richest of what's along here. And what happens is, in the fall, when the water's flooding, it erodes it off the bank, carries it down the river, and then when it gets to spots where there's lower water depression, there's a drop, whatever, it drops into different areas. So this is what we're after, this area, this here. We're chasing this all the way along here. And then as we were chasing it, we ran into that clay layer. And on top of that clay layer, there's some nice rusty sands, and it's very promising. So anyway, as you're digging, pay attention to the tailings coming out of your box. I'll tell you what you're in. I test all along the bank. We did little test holes before we decided to dig here. And one of the things we were looking for is specifically heavier rocks. If I see a collection of this kind of stuff, this is the heavier stuff in the thing. This here is very light, comparatively speaking. But we start getting into these shinier rocks like these. This is quite heavy. I don't know what these things are called. I'm not a geologist. I just know that where I find a collection of heavier rocks, that tends to be where I find the gold. So there you go. Anyway, so look for the heavier stuff. For some reason, when I start seeing a lot of this stuff, seems to be a good spot. And another thing that generally gets me excited when I start seeing it is petrified wood. Petrified wood is fossil, it's mineralized, so it is quite heavy. So if I start seeing fossilized wood, I'm very happy. And these little shiny black rocks here, they smoothen off really good. They're a denser rock. Good indication that you're into something better than other parts of the bank. Anyway, that's what I'm looking for. If I'm not seeing that in my tailings, I move, because it's probably not the best spot. There's a shot of our hole. Pretty good little hole. A close-up of our tailings here. What we're looking for. You can see there's a splattering of those heavier rocks through it. That makes me happy. And another thing I look for in my tailings is what's coming off the end of my box. If I don't see this half-inch and smaller stuff piling up on the end of my box, that tells me that I'm probably in somebody's tailings, so I'm wasting my time. You're looking for a good collection of everything from little half-inch rocks to rocks that big coming out of your hole. That tells you you're in the ground that probably hasn't been dug before or quite a while, and it's the stuff that was settled in and has come down river run rocks, you know, moving that glacier gold down the river. It erodes it out of the side, brings it down, gold goes straight, drops it in the low spots. Any place that there's a depression causes a lower depression. Seems to be a pretty good spot right here.